Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the story I am telling myself. Welcome, Sri. As soon as I knew I wanted to do this podcast, I knew I was going to ask you to be a guest because not only do you host your own podcast and you've been generous and had me on your show, but I love our conversations every time we are together. So thank you for saying yes to joining us today.
So when you call, it's like calling, like it's abundance calling. So why would I not say yes? I love that we are matching
Awesome.
your outfits today. So similar.
Yeah, both wearing our Galentine's red today. It's Galentine's Day. And if you are joining us live, thank you for being here. If you're replaying, hashtag replay, we're happy to have you here. But if you're live, let us know you're out there. We'd love to know who is joining us today. And please say hello to Sri. If you do not already know Sri, I'm going to give you how to get connected with him. You're going to want to know him. But Sri, tell everybody just a few words about yourself.
Absolutely. I love to start with outrageously myself. That's what I think my purpose on this earth is. I love how we can lean into our superpowers of being who we are and learn from that superpower and exuberate that superpower and create that space for ourselves and anybody we come in contact with to step into the light of being truly themselves. When we say introduce someone, we always talk about what we do, in profession and what we do in personal life. And I believe this introduction of what we believe in or what we sent here to do as what we believe in as our passion is the best introduction of ourselves. So you already know who I am right now. I'm outrageously myself. Professionally, I'm a sales director at Root Quotient. I sell software services. DM me if you have any doubts about creating an app or developing an app. I'm very happy to lean into the conversation and provide my expertise on that. Personally, I love to have conversations around how diversity and inclusion is going to help us, all of us, besides the conversations we are having right now globally. And I'm very happy to talk about how you can be yourself and still achieve personal and professional success.
And this is what attracts me so much to you, Sri, and why I knew you would be perfect for the show. Shout out to Sharon, Ruth, Gail, Stephanie, Sandra in the house. Thank you for joining us live, for being here in the comments. And don't be shy. Jump in. You have questions, you have comments. I know I can count on Gail and Ruth and Stephanie and Sandra and Sharon. They are good at that. And anybody else, don't be shy. Let us know what you want to talk about in this episode too. So, but yes, one of the positions that attract me most to you as somebody that I follow on LinkedIn is that your commitment, Sri, to being yourself, to being true. And you take a lot of hate for that as a gay man, as a gay parent, as somebody who is about rights and love and light in the world. There are a lot of haters out there that want to give you all kinds of advice, and it's so beautiful how you navigate that. And that, but the reason you can navigate that, I believe, has to do with the story you're here to share with us today. So tell us a little bit about your root story.
That's lovely. Root of all roots. Okay, so I'm from India, as you can see from my skin tone. I'm born to a priest, so my dad is a priest in the Hindu temple. So there's a lot of rules and how one should be in this house. So when I grew up, knowing I was different from all of the people that surrounded me, it was very difficult, and I had to hide my true identity. As a man, you cannot be flamboyant. As a boy, you cannot cry. You are supposed to play with other boys. Like cricket was such a big game in India. So I hated standing in the hot sun. I hated running around, ball and all those things. So it was very interesting because I had my true identity and I had certain things that I really loved to do. I love to do crafts and drawing and music and arts, and none of that was expected out of me. So here I am with plenty and abundant of what I can offer to the world, but what was expected out of me was entirely different. So I learned to hide myself very well up until college times, being bullied several times for my flamboyancy or for my voice. In several occasions, I think it's unfortunate I denied myself, like many of us do, just to fit in. we deny our true self. And that's what happened to me as well. I tried killing myself a couple of times. I swallowed as much as 48 pills to kill myself. I've been sexually abused when I was a child, like 11 years old. And, that came a point where I've realized no matter what the story people are telling about myself, I still deserve to live in this world. I still deserve to chase happiness like anybody else. And I found a greater sense of freedom once I started leaning in. Like, do I choose my parents or the society or the image that they created for me, or do I choose the image that I am truly and deny all those other images that people have created for me? And the moment I've taken control of my story, I think I found freedom and I found courage. And when you talk about hate, I think hate is very misdirected, right? So a lot of people don't know how to accept themselves. Like even the alpha males who find they are threatened by trans women or women or gay people. It's very interesting because when you ask these alpha male what being a man is and what being macho man is or manly man is, everybody has different scale to it, and there are parts of themselves they even have not accepted, and that's those are the parts that they hate themselves in, and they try to project that hate into others. So when I see hate comments and when I see all those commentary about how gay parents cannot be parents or how being gay is sin and all those things, I find it really interesting, and I actually feel for them because there are parts of themselves that they have not accepted, and this is all the more reason I need to tell my story so we can all understand how lovely it is to be ourselves.
When you were talking about all of that struggle, it made me think about Alok. I don't know if you follow him, the poet. And if you ever see any of the posts that he makes where people write just the harshest things to him and the pure love and kindness with which he responds, just doesn't even choose to engage at that level and really stand in his values. And that is certainly how I have always experienced you three. So you grew up, your dad is is a priest. I mean, religion, there's so much about who you are that is in direct conflict with the teachings of your religious upbringing, correct?
It is quite interesting because Hindu religion, especially when you talk about Hinduism, it's quite inclusive. We have gods and goddesses who are different kinds of genders and transgenders, and we have stories and epics and where there are so many inclusions, inclusive characters, and it is quite interesting because I come from south of India in a place called Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is the first place in India to give equal rights to trans people. So we do have male, female, and trans category in all of the governmental form right now in India. So the other day I was filling up a application for my visa, and transgender option is there. In contrary to what Western world is doing right now, which is very interesting. Hinduism in its core is very inclusive. But after British have ruled us for 200 years and colonized us into ideas and ideologies of what sin and original sin and all those Bible values, a lot of Indians have forgotten their roots, including my parents. It's interesting because my dad works in a temple where he sometimes dresses up a male god in a female form, and that is accepted. But he couldn't just accept his son being gay, and that's quite a contrary. I was able to see through that. Unfortunately, a lot of people tell these stories to themselves, which has been influenced by other cultures, whereas at core, Hindu religion is quite inclusive of everything.
So you talked about these times when you actually tried to take your life, when you weren't certain that continuing your life was the right choice for you. And I don't want to put you on the spot in a place you don't want to be. So only be as vulnerable as you choose to be in this moment, Sri. But I would love to know, what were some of the stories what was your internal narrator saying to you about yourself and about your life during those darkest times?
Yeah, I think for most part it's the shame. Somebody has written a comment as to, has the world told you to hide yourself? That's exactly how I felt. I wanted to hide. And I wanted to hide so much so that I didn't want anybody to find out. I'm gay, or I have these intentions of being interested in other man, which is outside the norms of what the society wanted. And that was the one that pushed me hard. Like, here I am, like my father is very proud of me, I do well in my academics. I was doing computer science, I had this bright future ahead of me. I was working in Citibank, which is a big organization in India at that point, when I was like 23, 24. And he's super proud of me. It's like, my son is like, he has finished college, he's doing his masters, he's working, and this one aspect of me, I knew for sure he's not going to be proud of. And that's the reason I pushed myself to kill myself, because I didn't want anybody to find out. I didn't want to bring shame to the family. And I am not sure how well this is taken in Western context, but in Indian context, you are supposed to make your parents proud. Like, you're supposed to live a life that your parents are proud of. And there is a huge pressure on kids like me in India to walk that line, which is very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you talk about that, because we just had a situation in my family where my two daughters got into an argument, and a very vocal argument, which I ended up being so proud of them, the way they navigated and they got to the other side of it. But in the middle of it, my oldest daughter said to her younger sister, look, do you think I like sitting in an office all day working at a computer? Like, you think that's my dream life? Like, no, I want more than that, but this is the job I have right now. And I have to do this. I have to make mom and dad proud. I have to make grandma proud. They spent a lot of money to get an education, to give me this opportunity. And the whole time I'm like, don't do it to make me proud. Like, that's not the right reason to do things in your life. But I also understand where she's coming from at that same time. I felt the same thing. My
Mm.
parents sacrificed. I was the first in my family to go to college. It was a sacrifice, and I felt like I owed something back for the
Right,
sacrifice that they made. So
right.
I totally get the idea that you're dropping here about this need to have people around us who we feel have invested in us be
Correct.
proud of what we've made of that investment.
So this is how I saw it, and this is very interesting point. And when I navigated me being gay out and open, and interestingly, they found out because I tried to kill myself and I was saved, and things got wild, and they found that I was gay, and we had to have these conversations. And during the months and years that followed that incident, the hardest part of accepting myself is not just accepting myself as who I am, but to be able to navigate the relationship I already had with my loved ones. To be able to distinct that, yes, I respect my parents. I know I have certain duties to fulfill as a son. I love my parents, but this is my life. So to be able to distinct those two things was such a challenge. Like, as an Asian kid, this is a huge responsibility. And you talked about making your parents proud, and feeling owed to our parents. This is something that's always there. Like, I come from a very humble background, so when we start doing well in life, we really want to take care of our parents. We really want to give them back what they have given us. But these narratives have to change, right? Like, I am a parent now. I adopted a 7-year old now, so no matter what he becomes, I'll be really proud of him. Plus, I wouldn't ever want a situation where, because I did these things, he has to do certain things. Like, that would be very selfish of me to expect from him. This is what I have to tell to everybody who's watching. Children's come through you, but not because of you, or not to you,
Mm.
to do anything for you. So this is what you have to understand. There's a specific distinct between you have a life, and the children has also have their life. So you have to let everybody be themselves and find a way to love each other even in our differences.
So you had this story, this internal narration that you should be ashamed of yourself, that you were going to let your parents down. I'm guessing that you feared you were going to be rejected by them. And I'm curious to know. So you this brought you to the point of suicide, right? And so navigating the aftermath of that with your family, what what of those stories you were telling yourself proved somewhat true, and what was total fabrication that just sort of in the face of the reality that you found yourself in and that your parents now found themselves in, just dissipated and really didn't materialize?
Yeah, this is lovely conversation. And this is something I'm unfolding with my therapist these days after several years of going through that. At that point, I was abused as 11 years old, and the abuse continued for about 5 6 years after that. And then we moved to a different place, so the abuse stopped. But then this idea of I'm dirty, I'm not enough, I'm broken, is was edged into my mind. And every time my parents talked about how a man is supposed to live and how he's supposed to get married and have kids and do certain religious practices and all those things, it's it's spiritual abuse, I have to say. There's a lot of teachings that comes to us in the words of God or in the words of religion that we internalize very very well,
Mm.
and we tend to reflect our values based on what those teachings are. Even though we clearly see there is a hypocrisy, and there is also, it's very hard to follow any teachings. Take any teachings for that matter, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam. Nobody can follow all of these teachings. These were written in a time that was entirely different from how and where we are living right now, and nobody can be to the perfection that these religion impose on us. So that narrative of religion really broken out, because I realized no matter what, I deserve to live. Like I'm saved for a reason, and I felt a deeper spiritual connection, not necessarily a religious connection to the God, but a spiritual connection to the God, as to why am I here, why am I going through this, and what is the learning that I'm having with this experience, and what I need to project to the world. That really changed. Because my father is a priest, I usually looked up to him as somebody who would, probably be a mouthpiece to the God, and that's how I've taken his words. But something changed after that incident when my parents put me into conversion therapy, of Hinduism conversion therapy, where I had to follow certain rituals and all of those things. And then I realized that this cannot be right. And like, God cannot be this way. And this has to stop. And that's when I actually started changing internally. And I think this is true for all of us. Like, we get all these mixed messages, be it our parents telling us how to live our life, what our values are, or the religion discourses that we attend, or books that we read, and how the society has certain norms over how you should be. So all of this mixed messaging comes to us, and it is direct conflict with who we are. And sometimes we feel, oh, are we sinners? Are we something broken? Are we dirty? Are we are not enough? Because you tend to put yourself in the scale that is impossible to measure yourself, and then you tend to put your values down. And the moment you wake up to that and say that, no, this is not going to work out for me, and you're going to find out your own ways of being spiritual, religious, and your own way of being good, your own way of being valuable to the community that you are in, and that's what is going to make that difference.
I That is just so amazing. I mean, just so beautiful, Sri, that the hope would be the kind of trauma that you suffered in your childhood. It is all too pervasive. And even those of us that don't have that level of trauma, it's you know I'm raising two girls, you're raising your son, and all the way along we're going, am I how badly am I screwing them up? Like, it's a ongoing question you have as a parent, because even when you try your best, even when you are showing up as the best version of you know how to show up as, you can be completely letting them down. Because one of my friends shared this with me. This somebody said, be kind to your mother. It's her first time too.
Mm.
It's like, it's a everything is a first for us as parents. We're figuring things out. And I definitely parent my second child better because of what I learned parenting my first child. My mother-in-law always said that that my husband is the oldest, and that he was her big experiment. You just learn a bunch of stuff with your first as your big experiment. So it's but we all carry from childhood certain messages that just get implanted into us. And I know you did a lot of therapy, a lot of work like that. But talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you think allowed you to step away and separate yourself from some of those stories and begin to challenge and examine them. What could you share with our listeners today about some things that you learned along the way that might be beneficial to all of us?
That's fantastic. I've come to know this concept called Kintsugi. It's a Japanese concept where they fix broken objects with gold metal, and that looks really beautiful. If you have not seen that, you have to go and see that. The first time I heard and I saw that while I was in 20s, I realized that there's a beauty in being broken. There's a beauty in being imperfect. And I think for me, I tried really hard to be a perfect son. That's the main agenda that was pushed against me and my own values. So the moment I realized I cannot be perfect, that's when I broke free. That's the key. And I think for all of us, this image of perfection is etched into our mind. We believe that we have to be certain way. We have to do, cardio. We have to eat right. We have to take care of ourselves, like meditate or read a book, or make this much of sales, or talk to our customers certain way, or be a good dad or a good mom. We have so many perfection that is preventing us from being who we are truly and beautifully. Knowing that we are imperfect is a starting point. We are so perfect oriented that we even want the cut flowers to last. So we put aspirin in it or coke in it. We even want cut flowers to last. But we have to understand cut flowers are meant to, bloom and wilt away. So we try this perfection around us. We feel that we have to be perfect in every way, but there's a beauty in being imperfect. I think that's what has started my journey towards myself. Being imperfect is fine. If I'm broken, it's fine. Being imperfect is a beautiful thing you can do to yourself. And second most important thing that really, really helped me is I accepted my situation as it is, which was very, very bad at the time. Like here I am doing a lot of rituals to convert myself into heterosexual person. With deep down, I know this is not going to work, but I was following it through because of my parents. My situation wasn't great. At that point, I was reading Paulo Coelho and Dan Brown, two of my interesting and very different and favorite authors. My books were taken away from me. My phone was taken away from me. There's a lot of restrictions around how I lived my life, and I kept thinking, okay, this is the phase I'm going through, and this phase is not going to last. It's like they can prison me, but they cannot prison my mind. So
Mm.
taking the situation as it is, knowing that your mind can be elsewhere or your mind can help you out, um, I think it really, really does wonders to you. Like they can put you in a battlefield, there can be thousand guns against you, and nobody can take away what you feel inside and how you embrace the situation. Nobody can take it away from you.
I think that's incredible. That idea that um, when you feel under attack, you do get to have these places of reserve, right? That you can hold on to.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes me one of my favorite books is Good to Great by Jim Collins. One of my favorite stories in that book is the story of Admiral Stockdale and getting himself and his fellow soldiers through their experience in the Hanoi Hilton, um, and it's as captives of war. And this idea of being brutally honest with yourself, of like just really, really getting to the truth of it.
Yeah.
So but in that, not despairing, but this is the harsh truth. This is the harsh reality of this moment, but having that unending faith that you can overcome whatever is coming to you. And you were able to find that in yourself. But, it's such a young age under, so much oppression. that's incredible, that you were able to really like find that within yourself and say, I, I can play the game, but I don't have to let go of who my true self is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about playing the game, here's where I think we have to agree on the game is not fair. So it's an unfair game that we all play. Women earn less than men. Women have a lot of situation that they have to overcome, which is taken for granted for men, and laws are written in favor of men. So be you're from a gay community or a trans community, or you're from minority communities, either a visible minority or any sort of intersectionalities we are talking about. The world is not written for us. The game is not written for us. The game is being rigged in favor of certain kind of people. So you know when you're going to play this game, you're going to lose no matter what. Why even try? Disappoint them. Disappoint all of them, including
Disappoint all of them. Wait, let's just pause right there. Like when the game is rigged against you, go ahead and disappoint all of them.
all of them.
That is a huge life position to take.
It is freeing. Once you know you can disappoint the most important person to you, your life will be so happy. Yeah,
That's sort of reminiscent of the Let Them book, right? The Mel Robbins Let Them thing right now. Like let them be disappointed. You don't have to take on ownership for how they feel or any of their expectations they foist upon you. You can just let them be disappointed
yeah,
in you, right?
yeah, and you have to claim yourself. The problem with not disappointing people is that you disappoint yourself in trying
Mm.
to be around you. Like my most favorite musician is Adele, and I love Adele. Like I love all of her albums. So I've been listening to one of her favorite songs, one of my favorite songs, and I saw so many thumbs down in YouTube and so many bad comments on YouTube. This was several years ago when our first album came out. And then I realized even if you're Adele, people are going to dislike you. Even if you win like so many Emmy Awards, people are going to dislike you. So,
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, Taylor Swift getting booed at the Super Bowl, like it's been all over
uh,
the
nothing,
news.
nothing is going to bring down the confidence, right? Because you're not dipping into other source of confidence. You're not seeing yourself through other people's eyes. You're not looking for those validation externally. You're not trying to please people and prove your worth to them, because that's what anybody who's been abused would do. You always try to prove your worth because you want to be loved and you want to be accepted for who you are, and you try really really hard to prove your worth, to say that, you know what, even if you put all these restrictions against me, I will prove to you that I can do this. This is the position we always take. The moment you start disappointing them, the moment you start knowing that you're not going to be part of their story and claim that story for yourself, then you're going to be fine.
Yeah, so I wanted you to expand on this idea of claiming yourself, which you were doing right there. So when you decide it's okay, you can disappoint others, but this other piece, you said, but the other piece is not just that you're okay with disappointing, but it is choosing to claim yourself. Tell me about some of the stories you tell yourself that allows you to stay in that space of really claiming yourself and not falling into the pattern that so many of us have of looking outside of ourselves for validation.
I want everybody who is listening to us to look at the mirror as much as possible today. And when you see the mirror, I want you to tell yourself you're beautiful no matter what. Because this is the first thing to start claiming yourself. Because we always, for me, it's my voice. When I was in Singapore and I was auditioning for at that time I was doing mass communication and I was auditioning for a radio show, and somebody talked about my voice, that my voice is not manly enough, and that affected my confidence a lot of a lot of times, even when I go on to client calls. And quite recently, a few years ago, I started my own podcast. And the first episode I did was, you know, unmuting myself and reclaiming that mic for myself, because, accepting my voice was the biggest piece. And just like voice, I have a crooked teeth, my body is not perfect, and I have a flamboyant style, the way I dress, and I'm bald, and so there are so many things that doesn't sit with the standards of the society. When you first start claiming yourself physically, the mental piece would come. Look at the mirror, and you always compare. You tuck in your tummy, you try to wear the tight dress and tell yourself, oh, I'm size this, and you always want to fit into a imagery of perfect you in your mind. And I want you to challenge that imagery and see the reality. Like, do you have a crooked teeth? Do you have a curve? Do you have hair or no hair? You have extensions or whatnot? Or your voice, or your confidence, or your English speaking skills, whatever be it. You have to claim yourself for all those imperfections. You have to claim yourself for who you are, rather than trying to push this image of perfection onto yourself. So
That's yes. Yes. Like, let's just pause there for a minute. Let that sink in, right? Stop. Stop that internal narration about all your imperfections and just replace it with you are exactly who you need to be in this moment. You get to embrace exactly who you are, how you are. Everything about you is perfect, just the way it is. Like, for so many of us, we don't give ourselves that permission. We have our grandmother in the back of our head telling us that we'd be prettier if we did this, we'd be handsomer if we did that, we this, that, the other thing, right? I mean, there's always been so much external guidance in so many different ways. This is a very powerful permission to give yourself.
and where we get confused, I believe, um, is when we try to grow ourselves. So we always evolve as a human being. Like, you might have had a belief and opinion about the world or certain things few years ago that would have changed completely now. As a person, we are evolving. We are learning. Like right now, I'm learning French and I'm learning Indian classical music. Um, Being better at something, learning something, and evolving is not changing you. So you have to differentiate between what are the aspects of you that are uniquely you, that you have to claim, and what are the aspects of you that you can evolve or allow to evolve. In my case, I would say I cannot change my voice. Like, no matter what I try, I can try to talk in a deeper voice, or I can be I used to be drinking a lot of cold water and ice before any business meeting, so my voice would crack and sound a little bit more manly. But that's not sustainable, right? I have to accept my voice and I have to claim my voice. But speaking a better English, I can do that. Like, I can learn that. So you have to separate between what helps you to evolve to be a better person versus what are your qualities, what are your DNA, what is the root of your root, what is you that has to shine through, and you have to keep those parts.
Well, and I have to say, Sri, that your voice is unique. If I walked into a conference and I heard you across the room, and so it is importantly unique about you because it would draw me to you. Look, I want everyone who's listening, and Melba, hey, great to have you with us. So happy that you're here today. Thank you for joining us and engaging with us in the comments. And Gary, I popped you up. I know you made it. Thank you for being with us all the way from England. So, Outrageously Me is a podcast that Sri you created a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And it really started out as a journal of self-discovery. It's not that you've got all this down pat. We're catching you mid stride, right? You're in journey, but people need to check out your podcast because you chose to really let people into that inner conversation that you were exploring. And I loved it. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to tell this to everybody. And you brought up a very important point. I'm still part of the journey. I'm still evolving, and I'm allowed my people to come into my life, to my story when I'm still evolving. And I think that's the beauty of life itself. All of us are still evolving. Nobody is done. Nobody is well done. We are not turkey. We are still cooking. We are still learning. We are still being ourselves. And I think it goes back to the perfection, right? The image that we have to be perfect, right? So I think that's when we have to see and look at ourselves and say that, this is going to be a journey, and I'm going to enjoy the journey. And no matter what people are going to think about me, and I'm not perfect, I'm learning, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows everything.
Well, if you have any final questions, pop them in the comments right now. So I gave you the outrageously me, Sri, and I found Sri on LinkedIn. I'm going to pop his LinkedIn in here for a second. But Sri, anything else about how people can connect with you, or what you're listening to, or resources you would like to share with folks before we wrap up this conversation?
Yeah, Mel Robinson, of course, all of you already be following Mel Robinson's. Rita, I follow Rita. Sharon is wonderful, and she's also in the commentary today. Go follow Sharon. I would have to say, like, when the title came, Broken, Dirty, and Not Enough, I want to tell everybody, including myself, um, nobody is broken. Nobody needs to feel broken. And even if you feel broken, there is a beauty in being broken. And the cracks where the light gets in, red, as the famous saying goes, um, all the imperfections, all the things that are broken inside you is letting the light in and making you the person you have to become. And you are needed, like whatever you are needed in this world. We are all different kinds of fabric coming together to weave this wonderful community of love. And you are needed exactly as you are, as not anybody else, but as you are. And remember that you're not broken, you're not dirty, and you're exactly where you are. You're beautiful, you're enough, and you're worth $1 million.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to shut down our time today. I hope you're hearing me, because the internet is doing a crazy, crazy thing in my house again. Somehow I'm
I'm
going to get this fixed.
I'm
Thank
hearing
you
you.
for joining us today. Thank you for being with us for the story I'm telling myself. The next episode is coming up Saturday at 11. Vivian,
I think we have lost her for a bit now, and if it is still streaming, I have no control. I'm just a guest here. I would love to connect with all of you. Please shoot out a message on LinkedIn, and if you want to share your story with me, I'm happy to hear that as well. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, Rita, for allowing me to share my story with this lovely audience. You were gone for a second, so I had to take on the duty of talking.
yes, I knew you would. Thank you. I don't know what it's going to take. If somebody knows how to help me figure out what is going on with my internet, you need to reach out to me, because it is driving me insane. So thank you for being with us, Sri, on Saturday at 11. I think it's 11 a.m. We are talking about, how do I say I lost my job? So many people struggling with guilt, shame, all of the hard feelings in this time, in so many companies. Even if you kept your job, but your best friend next to you lost their job, you might be feeling some of those things. So encourage people to come join us on Saturday for that special edition of the story I'm telling myself. Sri, this was such a beautiful conversation. I know you're going to have to come back. We're going to have to do more. Thank you, everyone who joined with us today. And I will see you back on Saturday. Have a wonderful day.